I'm always telling marketers to be data-driven. Watch session recordings, analyze website reports, review heat maps, and make decisions based on what the numbers say. But after chatting with Yael from Decode Insights, I realized something. Data shows you what is happening, but it never tells you why. And that's where customer insights basically change the game. In this conversation, we dive into why marketers avoid customer interviews, how to run them effectively, and how a few honest conversations can completely transform your messaging, positioning, and impact business results. Let's just dive right in. So you started Decode Insights around 4 years ago, right? Something like that?
It started off, so it's a little bit misleading. It started off as a marketing agency called Green X Media. I had a business partner. We were doing digital marketing, and we were building websites. We were doing SEO, social media marketing. It was a really full stack marketing agency, brand design, etc. And part of our methodology was helping businesses understand why their customers buy and don't buy so that we could inform the messaging on the website. And we could, inform how we craft their brand strategy and positioning. So we would interview our clients' customers as part of that process. But Decode just became more refined in the last year and a half when I niched down into this area.
So what made you decide to niche down specifically on customer insights and interviewing customers?
It goes a little bit further back than just, when I decided to niche down. My first job, real job, was in sales. I was working with a consumer packaged goods company selling granola bars across Canada at the peak of COVID, and we were in the most competitive category you could possibly be in. We had a sales problem, and every time I called a customer, they were like, sorry, product is not going off the shelf. We don't want this product. And I went to the founders and I said, we have a sales problem. It's not just that we're not in enough stores, it's that they don't even want the product. And why do they not want the product? So I said, let's stop selling and let's just start interviewing people and listen to why they buy and don't buy, where are the market opportunities. And after speaking with hundreds of people, I came up with these insights about what we needed to change. And we changed the product formula, the pricing, the packaging, the messaging, the positioning, the package design, everything changed. It was crazy. And I had left that company because I built my marketing agency. But after about a year, I followed up and I said, how are things going? And when they told me their sales were going through the roof, I was like, wow, okay, there's something here. In addition to that, with our marketing agency, businesses, every time we would share with them these insights from their customers, which, by the way, they did not pay us for. We were just kind of thought we were doing the right thing. They said, wow, they were surprised by these insights, and they would make changes to their business as a result. And then eventually, when we started speaking with more decision makers and more prospects, they were thinking, we don't want your websites. We just want your methodology. We love these insights. We were blinded by what our customers think, and this would really be interesting. So more and more businesses that we worked with really prioritized this value of customer insights. And it was what I love to do. I love, speaking to strangers, period. Like business or not business, I love speaking to new people.
I love that.
And I love asking them questions. I love understanding, what makes them tick and what's in their head and what are they thinking about that they're not really saying. And so I think I've kind of refined this niche for myself and my clients where there's a lot of value to be added in different kind of areas of their business that's deeper than just, doing the execution of marketing. Because I don't like marketing. I don't like the execution part, but this is the foundational kind of stuff. So
interesting. Why do you think that I would say a lot of marketers, they are, I don't know if that's afraid or not invested enough in actually speaking with clients. Like you see marketers, even good marketers, they just start doing, they do the research, but the research is not really including interviewing clients and speaking with a lot of clients. Why do you think that's the situation?
I think it depends. I think, first of all, marketers are never taught, this is how you go do proper customer discovery. And here is how this customer discovery is directly connected to your go-to-market strategy, your positioning, your messaging, etc. They're not really taught that. That's never the first step. I would say secondly is it's easier to just be creative and, do and go execute. Build a strategy and go execute. It's easier to just sit in your own assumptions and rely on your creativity. Marketers are even positioned as like the creative part of the business, not as the scientific, detective, let's go investigate kind of people, even though that's actually what a marketeer should be doing. So I think that because of those reasons, they're not even thinking about the customer. They're not thinking about, let's go speak to customers. I think in addition to that, people see going to speak to customers as a time-consuming process that can hold people back, and let's go A/B test first, and then we'll be more informed. So they go, jump to like, let's go run and go push, as opposed to let's take 10 steps back and understand. And then I think the last thing is people actually do think they know the customer. They're actually really convinced, oh no, we know why our customers buy. But the problem is with that is those people talk a lot about their features. They're really talking a lot about their features and their product, and they're not empathizing with the, psychology and the thoughts and the feelings and the emotions behind the pains of their customers.
I really like the fact that, marketing, I think that marketing is like a combination between creative and science. But I also think that a lot of marketers are afraid to do stuff that, don't scale. So speaking with customers, it's something like it's super time consuming. It doesn't really scale. Like you cannot always speak with your clients. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. But then we also know that doing stuff that don't scale is actually what can position you like better than your competitors, because if you're really doing the things that no one is willing to do, that's where you can actually win.
True.
So that's really interesting. And it's even more than what you're saying about marketers believe that they do know their clients, but they maybe know their clients from their own marketing perspective and features and product perspective, but they don't really truly know their clients. Like they don't really get intimate with their customers and really to understand. So maybe you walk us through how you structure like a great customer interview. What questions tend to uncover the deepest insights usually when you speak with clients?
Okay, really good question, because I'm not properly trained in, how to do the best customer interview. No one taught me how to do this. What I've relied heavily on is, first of all, relationship building. When I first get onto a conversation with my client's customers, there's a lot of like rapport building for the first 5 minutes. Like, where are you from? When did you start working with this company? Who are you? What's the weather like over there? I'm not joking, the weather is a great topic to bond over. Everyone has something to say about the weather. And then you have a couple laughs and you try to make them feel comfortable. And I always make sure to highlight and emphasize, I do not care how much money you spend on this product. I don't care how long you've been a customer. I don't care if you stop being a customer tomorrow. My purpose is to understand you. And I say this because they then realize that I'm completely detached from them, attached to money or a sale, and it allows them to feel vulnerable. It allows them to feel, okay, this person doesn't want anything from me. They're just trying to understand me. And it makes them feel like we can actually just engage in a rich dialogue. The goal of the conversation is always, what were they struggling with before using this product? What are their pains? And then what is the context in which that occurs? And then what is their desired transformational outcome? What were they trying to change? How is it impacting their life? Time, money, whatever goal they're trying to achieve, what does this help them do? And it's not the surface level stuff. It requires peeling. It's like an onion. Like you really have to peel the layers off to get to the core. And it requires a lot of probing and active listening. So when someone says something like, I was really struggling to, I don't know, I need to come up with better examples, like right off the bat, but when someone's talking about a problem, I always say, what do you mean by that? Or why do you think that might be the case? Probing kind of questions to kind of get them to elaborate further And, what frustrated you about that? When someone says, it was really frustrating when I experienced this, I'll say, why was it frustrating for you? Because you need that extra few more questions that peel off those layers to get people to really, even for themselves, crystallize that feeling that they're experiencing. So that when you then go to the marketing message, you could actually drill right into their mind and say, when, this and this occurs, that feeling when this, and you can say no more experiences to having that. You're not touching the surface level, problem. You're actually hitting a nerve. So in those conversations, most of it really is just probing. It's just getting them to okay, tell me a little bit more about what you mean by that. I think most people who do these conversations that are not, they just do it to kind of check the box, they're not really just, they're not probing further because it's an uncomfortable conversation. It's not comfortable to ask people about why they were frustrated and why they were struggling. No one really wants to ask those questions, but those are the most important questions for any marketeer because people buy when they're in pain and they buy off of emotion. When it's an existing customer that I'm interviewing, I then of course have to get what was the impact, what was the before and the after. And so once you really get into the pain, then they just okay, and this is what happened. You really, the transformative outcome, it becomes super apparent. You go from this to this. That's what marketers need to be doing. You need to be talking to the problem and then what actually happens, the stark contrast. So I get that out of people by saying, okay, what happened to this and how much time did this save you and were you feeling, what was it alleviating? What was no longer a struggle? What was no longer a frustration? So, and then how did that manifest into your life? So I get the context through that whole dialogue. And I'm just listening. I'm just listening and probing and crystallizing as well is another thing. Asking clarifying questions. So I repeat what they say and I might a little sharper version and I'm like, so do you mean this? Am I understanding you properly? Which also makes them feel understood in that conversation. So they're like, okay, this person is actively listening and they understand me and they're empathizing with me and I get emotional. I'm getting in their head. I'm there with them and they feel like it really resonates that I really resonate with them. And it gives them the permission and the freedom and the comfort to continue the conversation and be open with me.
I like that. I like the fact that first, because you are quote unquote an outsider of the company, you're not afraid of asking questions that sometimes marketers, they don't want to hear the answers for us, right? It's sometimes asking too many questions, asking client that too many questions might get them to really think and maybe say, yeah, do I really know? Do I really got a lot of time saved? Maybe I just saved a little time, and then they are afraid of asking those questions. And it's amazing that you can come from outside and you have no reason of not asking questions. So digging deeper is actually something that allows you to get more and more information that usually, if you're, as you mentioned, just here to tick the box. So you would just say, oh yeah, it saved you time. Great. So I'm going to go with saving time as my main benefit. Interesting. I like that.
One thing I'll just add to why do marketers not do this? I think there's this expectation that they should know the answer. There's expectation I already know the customer, or I should already know what the customer is thinking because I'm a marketer and we talk about the customers all the time. So it should be obvious. And I think when I challenge people sometimes and I say, do you really know what they're thinking? Their immediate instinct is I know what the customer thinks because I'm a marketer and I do the messaging all the time. And it's uncomfortable to admit to yourself and your team that you actually might not know.
Interesting. I love that. I think this is so true that even if I'm going to post it like that, marketers will just know what are they talking about. Of course I know. It's that. No, that's super interesting. Cool. So help me to understand. Let's say You are doing an interview, you dig deeper and deeper and deeper. How do you know when you actually found like a golden nugget? Like this insight is actually going to move the needle for my client, for the marketer or the sales folks, right? Like how do you know that this is a true insight that's going to change the business?
When we've peeled these layers off and there's no more layers to peel. That's like when you get an insight. It's like, and also for the customer, when I'm interviewing them, they're like, there's like a moment of silence where they're like, they actually like realize for themselves, they haven't ever admitted this or realized this for themselves. And they're kind of thinking, that's the case. And it's like a moment of pain almost. It's like when you're in therapy, whoever's listening to this, or if you've ever been into therapy, but it's like you kind of land on this epiphany or insight or this moment of truth that you have never actually said out loud that hits on some sort of heartstring and some sort of nerve. And we're both in that conversation and we're like, wow, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So those are like the really rich kind of insights. I'll never forget it. I've had some conversations with people where they actually start crying in the conversation that I have with them, because they actually get so emotional about their experiences. And I do not advertise myself as therapy, but after these discussions, they were like, wow, that was almost like a therapy session. Because we're literally talking about problems and crystallizing why they're problems. Oftentimes people aren't even thinking about the root causes behind why things happen. But when you just dig deeper, you get the full context and we work together to kind of figure it out. It's like problem solving. So when you get these insights, these rich insights, then I go back to my client and I explain to them, this is why your customer has this problem. This is the context. This is their real experience. This is their frustration. This is when they're in pain. These are their moments of struggle. And it starts to become clear.
Can you describe the process of, like, before you even start interviewing a customer? I assume you don't just pop on a call and say, hey, how are you? How's the weather? And then just asking question like, what's your process like? What does the preparation look like? How long those usual conversations take? And anything that you can share about the process. If I'm a marketer, I want to start doing that. What should I do?
Okay, so in the case when I think I'm working with a client who we're trying to really figure out, why do our customers buy? Why do they buy? We figure out, okay, who is the segment? Who are the specific ICP that we're trying to target to? Because businesses have multiple segments depending on the size. There may be people in different tier plans. Like, who are we speaking to? So we lay that out. And then we get clear on like, what are the blind spots? What are the initial assumptions that we have about these people? Just so like we're on the same page. And then we outline, okay, here are a list of customers to reach out to. My client introduces me as a third party with depending on the case, an incentive. So here is a $50, $100 Amazon voucher, for example, to chat for 30 to 40 minutes. Conversations, by the way, last over 30 minutes because people love to talk. It's just low-hanging, you just kind of make it easy buy-in. So then we connect. But before the conversation, there are key questions that we're trying to ask and get out of people. And those key questions, again, lie within what are their pains, what are their specific moments of struggle and frustrations, what's the context in which this all occurs, and then what's the desired transformation or the actual outcome that they experienced. And so those key questions are what lead the conversation. I do a little bit of product research in advance to just understand, okay, like, what is this product? So I don't go in like not knowing any terminology or anything. But I think the advantage, like, I don't do too much product research, because the advantage of when I go into these conversations is, can you explain what this is without the jargon? And can you explain how you exactly use this? Because I don't come in with any assumptions. If you're somebody who works on a specific product for a long time and you're in the weeds, like you are really in it, you're going to come into that conversation thinking like you already know how the customer uses that product. You'll just skip that question. So because I have not, I'm asking like the obvious questions. So when do you use this? When you sign on, what do you look at? In what moments of the day do you use it? what instances does this occur? What other people are using, things like that. So I get the full context so that I'm super crystal clear on how they're using it and why. But the majority of the conversation is using those key questions that I outlined in advance as the structure, and then probing from what they're saying. It's just a lot of probing and crystallizing and just getting super clear on exactly what they mean by what they say.
I love that. I think that the fact that you can come with clear mind and you don't have any assumptions and stuff like that, I think it, like, if you do know the product so well, and if you know like why you did your own messaging, and then you start asking questions around that, so obviously you'll get to a specific insight that you wanted to go to. It's like the bias approach, right? If I'm
Right.
coming and asking questions about something I already want to get answers for and I know, so obviously I'll take the conversation to that place. But if you just start scratch, I don't really know too much about the product, so you tell me as a user, how do you actually use that? So it opens up a lot of different options for discussions that, you know, might not happen if I'm using my own jargon, and if I'm taking the customers in my way of thinking, so they will answer my way of, like, my specific questions maybe, but not their actual pain points. So it's like talking about the product and not talking about themselves, about their issues. So that's interesting.
100%.
But help me understand something, and we touched on that before, but what can I get from speaking with the customer, like speaking with the clients, that I cannot get from using data? Like I myself, I push marketers to be data driven and to try and analyze more and more information about their customers and what they do and how they use their product from a data perspective, right? Like watch the hit record, like the heat maps and the session recordings, try to analyze what people are actually doing and using, what are they reading on your website, what type of information they care about. Do a lot of research, but this is all data-based. Why do I need to speak with the client instead of just actually testing that, like evaluating the data?
So it's incredible to be data driven, and you have to be data driven. What data gives you is insight into people's behavior. What are they actually doing? And that's really important because you need to know how to make some decisions behind. If people are not using something or they're skipping over something, you need to change that. It tells you what's working and what's not. But it doesn't actually tell you why. And it doesn't actually give you the context that you need to say, okay, this is not working because this, and therefore we need to change this because of this. Without the context and that deeper understanding of why something is working and why it's not, or to make sense of some sort of statistic or behavior or action, you will just continue to guess and just continue to test a little bit blindly. I mean, you will be more smart and you will be more informed. You will be smarter and more informed, but you won't really have the deeper sense of like confidence to say, this is how we're making sense and understanding this data. You'll have a blind spot. So understanding like the psychology and mentality of what really matters to customers and why it matters to them, you'll just continue to just rely on numbers without any empathy, without any connection to their mindset.
I love that. So using the data, you can understand what people are doing, but you cannot understand why they are doing that. And then you can only assume. So by actually questioning and interviewing them, so then you can understand the why. I love that. I think that's amazing. Yeah, I didn't even think about that like that. So it's super cool.
People are obsessed with data. I think we're in this like era of more data, more data, more data, but no one really needs that much more data. You just need to understand your data and what's behind it. The people who you're trying to market to are the ones that matter the most. So what are they thinking? How to make sense of their actions, you know?
So how many people should I interview to really understand? And if I interview one customer, it doesn't really say that that's the same for all of the other customers. So how many customers or how many interviews do I really need to do before I start to really understand and see patterns and really understand like the drivers of my ICP, I would say, the different personas?
There is a industry standard in product marketing research of 5 to 7 interviews. That is really what you really just need to get a clear picture of your customers and why they buy and don't buy. I take it a bit further, and my standard is 10. There are instances where you speak to 5 people and it's every single conversation has been pretty much the exact same. Okay, we could be pretty confident that this is, information to rely on. But there are instances when customer cases vary, and I guess that, depends on the sample that you're interviewing. There may be people who've had different experiences that you might not have, gotten people with the exact ICP that you want to be targeting, and so there's a variety of responses and experiences. It might be industry, the industry might vary, or the position of the person is different. So I like to have 10. That's my gold standard. And sometimes with businesses that I work with that like to have a little bit more statistical significance, and they want more volume just to be really, really sure, I sometimes even have 20 conversations.
Interesting. That's cool. All right. And I know that you don't really do messaging now, but let's say after you have that deep customer insights, you did those 10 to 20 customer conversation. What do you think would be the best way for a marketer to translate all of the insights to clear messaging and positioning?
First of all, the best messaging uses your customers' words. I've seen with some of my clients, I've given them so what I do is I give them direct quotes from what their customers are saying. Here are anecdotes of them describing their own pains, them describing their, the benefit, the desired outcome, the transformation that you had on them. And when you take the customer's words, apply that into your messaging, you're then speaking their language, not yours. You're speaking the customer's words, customer's thoughts. And there's this psychology behind when you're using your customer's words, they feel a stronger sense of familiarity. They feel a stronger sense of connection and trust and credibility because, they actually are empathizing with you and resonating with you. And it's that's what I was thinking. That's me. That you're speaking to me. So take your customer's words verbatim and put them into your messaging. The other option is, because you so intimately understand the thought processes of your target market, the pains and the desired outcomes, you don't have to do so much guesswork. Then that's where your creativity comes into play. It's so deeply now understand their problems. I so deeply understand the value of this product to them. Messaging just becomes so much clearer. The content that you write, the ad copy you write, just the pure positioning, messaging, one sentence kind of stuff becomes so much clearer and informed. And it becomes fun because there's you don't have to guess anymore. You just understand the customer.
I like that. And I really like the LinkedIn post you posted recently about being a megaphone or being a mirror. So are you shouting at your customers, we are the number one platform for AI powered yada yada yada, or being a mirror which actually reflects what your customers are saying, how your customers are feeling. And that really resonates. I think that a lot of marketers are making this mistake about talking about themselves, talking about their own product and why their own technology is the best, instead of talking about the customer pain points and what the customers really care about. I love that. And we don't have a lot of time. I have just one more question. What's one thing that you wish that every marketer would understood about customer insights, to really make their job easier and more effective, I would say?
That it will change how they approach their work. That they no longer have to sit in this guesswork of just testing and trying and brainstorming and reimagining and creating, and they can still be creative, but in a really informed way. Sorry, there's a fly. But a really informed way. It'll give them the insight, the intel into what is in their customer's mind that they don't have to just come up with and guess at. So I think it's a performance enhancer. It is a quicker way to figuring out what actually resonates with your customer, and having the clarity behind why. That clarity is something that a lot of people don't have. And it's something that's the power of deeply understanding your customer through one-to-one interviews.
I think that's great. I think that especially in B2B, it's like we are talking usually not about volume. It's not like B2C that you sell to tons of people. You really need to understand your specific audience, what they care about, why they care about what they care about, and then really to understand like, okay, how do I speak to them and not just say what I want to say. And I think it's really interesting because it's also very hard to test in B2B because of volumes, and you don't really need that much volume to just interview and speak with clients. So you can understand, as you mentioned, like we're just speaking with 10 to 20 clients, you can really get an understanding about pain points and their day-to-day and what they really care about. So I like that concept. Amazing stuff. All right. So let's wrap it up. Yeah, really appreciate the time. I think it was amazing. A lot of interesting. I took for myself even what I'm going to do next about my messaging, because I thought I know my messaging, but now you got me to rethink that. So I need to speak with a few clients. Thank you very much.
Thanks for doing this. This was awesome. Thanks, Elad.
All right.